Okay, hello. How's everybody? So this is my how to use Lightroom tutorial. I was going to give it, but instead I'm going to do it here. So this is my LSAD folder here, LSAD, and in here I've got year 3. And while I'm here, I'll just show you guys my image management system. So we have year, month, day, title. All right, so that's the resonant project that I'm doing at the moment. All my bits and pieces in there. Over here, Loop the Loop, that was in 2019, November 25th, and all my Loop the Loop work is in there. So it gets a bit messy inside in it, but you can see now how everything is really nicely laid out. So just to show you guys one way of organizing your files and folders. Now, today I'm going to be showing you Lightroom. This is Lightroom Classic. Okay, so there is another version of Lightroom called Lightroom CC. You don't want to download that. That's more for working on your phone or or an iPad and for putting things through the cloud. We're not doing that. We are using our desktop. So you can use it on a Mac or on another PC. It should work either way, but you want to make sure you download Lightroom Classic. Okay, so Lightroom is two different things. Okay, it is secondarily a way of editing and processing your files, but firstly it is a way of organizing your work. Okay, so when you open it, you might get something like this: Lightroom catalog was not found. Okay, so for me it's because I was recently doing something and it's telling me that it can't find the Lightroom. So what you want to do here is choose a different catalog. All right, so choose a different catalog. I'm going to create new catalog. You can do this from inside in Lightroom as well. If you open it, it'll ask you to create a catalog. Okay, now a catalog is where your photos live. It's like a house for all of your images, and Lightroom is going to look at your images in that catalog and organize them in Lightroom, but it's not going to move them from here. Right, so what I do is I make a catalog for each project that I'm working on. So at the moment I'm working on the Beyond the Square photos that I took. All right, so these are my photos. Now instead of organizing each file here in Finder and opening each individual photo up in Photoshop, I'm going to make a catalog up here. I'm going to call it Beyond the Square Cat. Okay, Beyond the Square Cat, no square cats, and it's going to live in this folder, right, the Beyond the Square folder here. Okay, create. All right, now as I say, when you open Lightroom it might look more like this, but it might give you that same information to say start a catalog. All right, that's fine, go away. All right, so here if you open it and it looks like this, then you want to go up here to File, New Catalog. Okay, New Catalog, and the exact same thing, you make your catalog here just like I did just there. Okay, so you find out where you want it to live and type it in your catalog there. All right, now that just means that we have told Lightroom we're working on a new project and we're going to put images into this project. Okay, so we're going to go up to File and we're going to go to Import. Whereas import photos and videos. Okay, now you can also use Shift Command I. Okay, it's a shortcut. I really like shortcuts. I recommend learning them. Shift Command I, or just click here, import photos and videos. Now the difference between Lightroom and Photoshop is that on Photoshop you can work on an image, make changes to it, and once that image is adjusted, it'll be changed. Okay, so once that image is adjusted, it's changed, that's it. You then save that image and those changes are saved, and if you're not careful you can overwrite the original raw file, irrevocably making an adjustment to that image. Okay, you can't do that in Lightroom. So on Photoshop you can make a change to an image, save your image, and accidentally overwrite your original file. On Lightroom we're telling it, in here, in this folder is all of my images. It's going to find them all and it's going to build previews. It's going to import the preview into Lightroom, but it's not actually going to touch these files. It's never going to actually do anything to these files at all, ever. But it'll give us previews. Now you can tell it different standards. All right, minimum is fine for what I'm doing right now. Standard is what I do if I'm working on a lot of photos and I know that I'll be looking at them in detail and I really want to be fast. It'll take longer to create the previews, but then it's quicker to look through them. Now, I don't have a huge amount of photos here. I only have, maybe, I don't know, I think it's about 100 or something, is it? So it won't take me too long to do. But if I had 1,000 photos, I'd probably build standard previews, because I'd let it build those previews, go away, make a cup of coffee. When I'm back, it'll be quicker to work afterwards. One-to-one previews means that it basically builds an exact replica, pixel by pixel. They're really, really big. I don't use those really at all. But you can again if you want the highest quality. But again, for this, we're going to use minimal. All right. Don't worry about building smart previews. Don't worry about any of these things. Don't worry about any of these things. Just ignore them for now. I can do more on that later on, but this is it for now. So here we have all these photos. It's going to take them all in. It's going to sort them by when they were captured. You can tell it two different things. We're going to tell it sort by capture time. And we're going to click import. All right, just go through that one more time. We have, let's cancel that. We're here. Nothing's on our screen. We're going to go up to File, Import. All right, tell it where our photos are. Okay. Beyond the square. Minimal previews. Import. All right, and click. All right. Now, it's going to import them. It takes a little bit of time. The bigger previews that you've asked it to build, the longer it'll take. And of course, if you're working on a slower laptop, it'll take slower as well. All right. Now, this here is our library module. All right. It's got different modules here for different things. All right. Some pretty cool stuff here. You can build books and things like that. Right. Now, library is just like when you're in the darkroom and you've processed your roll of film. Oops. What am I doing? Oh, there's Day. How are you doing, lad? A couple of naked photos in here, so there you go. Beware. Library is where you are processing your images in the darkroom and you're just looking at them. All right, that's essentially what we're looking at our images and we're selecting the ones that we want to use. Okay, once we've selected them, we'll develop them in our tank of chemicals. All right, in this case, it's a tank of pixels. But this is the two stages: library, where we're going to pick the ones we want to work with, and development, where we actually work on them. All right. Now here. This down here is showing us a grid. So everything here is in a grid. We can also tell it to show us one by one. All right, that's our loop view, E, and here we have our grid view, and that's a G. Okay, now, grid is fine if you want to have a quick flick through each one. So I say, yeah, that's fine. What's this one like? I go into E. Jesus, that's terrible. All right, E is what I usually use, and I go one by one. So here, look, I took a couple of photos of Aoife, trying to get a nice one. That's reasonable. No, no, and that's also reasonable. All right, so people always pull funny faces. So there's a nice one. All right, so now let's say I want to pick this photo. Okay, it's a good shot. It's Aoife, she's doing the thing with the camera. It's nice to have that bit of documentation. There's a crowd around. The background isn't completely blown out, nicely exposed. I like it. All right, let's go for it. I am going to select this and I'm going to give it a 5-star rating. So see here, I'm going to give it a 5-star rating. Now you can also give it a 5-star rating by pressing the number 5. You can give it a 4-star rating by pressing 4, a 3-star rating by pressing 3, and etc. and etc. You get rid of the rating by pressing 0. All right, so 0 gets rid of it. I'm going to give it a 5-star rating. All right. Now the reason I give it 5 and not 4 or 3 or 2 is because over here in our smart catalogs, it's built a catalog inside in it, or a collection rather, inside of 5-star images. So there's everything. There's our 5-star image in there. So now what I'm going to do is I'm just going to go through all of the images and I'm going to select the ones that are best. All right, give me 2 seconds there. Okay, so I have gone through all of my images and I have selected them randomly. Well, not randomly, I've decided the ones that I like and I've given them a 5-star image. All right, so now I'll go over here. All right, 5 stars, and they're there. I don't have to put them there. By giving them the 5-star label, they're already there. All right, so it's really handy because it just automatically builds a selection of images. Now, I'm quite happy with most of these images. However, you can see here I've got this one and this one, and they're very similar. I want to pick one or the other. All right, now I could just get rid of my 5-star, give it a 0, right? But maybe I'm not sure. I just want to pick one or the other. I don't want to get rid of it. They're both good. I like both of them. or say up here where like it could be one or the other and I'm just not sure, I want an extra layer of sorting. Well, in this case, you can go back here to my single view, I can give it a red label. All right, so I'm going to press the number 6 and now it's red. If I go back here, you can see it's given it a red border. If I press 6 again, it takes it off. Now you can go yellow, and you could go green, and you can go blue, but the reason why I do red is because if you look over here, it's built another collection of red images. All right, so in my 5 stars, I'm going to do the same thing I did earlier, go through them one by one, and give the ones that I like a red label, and then we're going to narrow this 60 images down to maybe 40. All right, so let's do that. All right, so guys, we have narrowed down our 60 into 30. Okay, it's really simple. All right, let's go back and do that again. Let's go back to our get rid of our smart collections. Here's all of our images. We've given the ones that we like a 5 star, and we've given the ones that we really like a red label. And when we've done that, it's automatically put them into here. We like it, we give it a 5 star, 61. We like it most, we give it a red label, 31. Okay, so you can see how quickly now I had 256 images in here. And in about 15 minutes, I've narrowed it down to 30. All right, so there's a little bit of work to set up, right? But now I have 30 images that I really like, and I'm going to work on those. So that's the library module. Okay, so we've taken our images, we've imported them, we've sorted them. Now we actually want to work on them. All right, so maybe there's a little bit too much yellow here in the corner, so maybe I'll just crop in. Right, I'm gonna click this button, or I can press R. R is for crop, and I can just take it in a little bit. All right, there we go. It's nice. Let's take it in a little bit. Dun, 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 dun. It's kept my aspect ratio the same, but I could tell it to do different sizes. Right, various different sizes, or I could tell it my own size that I wanted to for whatever reason. We'll go back to our original here, and we'll go down. So, cropping it in a little bit. Perfect. Maybe just move it around a little bit. There we go. Excellent. All right, I'm happy with that, sort of. Anyway, there we go. Happy enough. Let's say it was slightly too yellowish. It's kind of quite yellow here in the walls. I can go to my temperature, and I can drag it down. Or I could click this and tell it that's neutral. This wall is a neutral color, and everything else is different. I can tell it this bit is neutral. I can tell it this bit is neutral. Mad stuff. Now, I've made it crazy here. What have I done? Oh my god, it's absolutely ridiculous. I can go here to my history and just click back to where we are. There's no limit on this, unlike in Photoshop where it will limit how many steps you can go backwards. Lightroom doesn't have a limit because it's just working on a preview, not the actual thing. And I can actually go all the way back to my import, get rid of all my crops, or go back to one of my crops. Doesn't actually make a difference. So there we are, back to our original warm temperature. I'm going to bring it in maybe a hint. I could bring up my exposure. I could bring down my contrast. I could take just the white parts and move them up and down. I could take just the most white parts and move them up and down. I could take the dark parts. I could take the most dark parts. Right? So this is your blacks, your shadows, whites, and highlights. Okay? Really simple. Just here. Take texture up. All right? See how that affects that there? See the jacket? Watch that. Texture. Okay? Clarity. Again, just play around with these. See how they feel. Dehaze. Does some mad stuff. Don't know what that does. Saturation and vibrancy. Saturation is going to take all of our colors and put them up. Vibrancy is going to take our lowest value colors and bring them up first. Alright, so watch the difference. With saturation, I can take it all the way down into black and white, but with vibrancy, I can't. It's not fully black and white. There's a little bit of yellow there, a little bit of brown and red in the jacket. So vibrancy doesn't affect every color. It just affects the most colory colors, if that makes any sense. I usually work with vibrancy more than saturation. It's just a bit softer. This is the exact same as what we just did, but a different way of doing it. There's our midtones, right? There's our shadows. There's our highlights. There's our blacks. There's our whites. All right, It's just a different way of working. I don't really use that one, but for people who like working with curves, it can be quite useful. Don't know how to get rid of that. Oh, let's go back here to our vibrancy. Now, same thing here. We've got our color, but instead of it telling to do all the colors, we can tell it to do just the reds. Let's bring just our reds down. Let's bring just our reds up. All right. Maybe we tell it, let's take all of our reds and make them more pink, or make them more orange. All right. Really, really cool stuff you can do there. The other thing you can do is luminance. Let's take our reds and make our reds brighter. Let's make our reds darker. All right. Really cool stuff that you can do here in the HSL. That's hue, saturation, and luminance. And again, it's just bars. That's all we're working with. Right? You can click this button and you can tell it this bit here, that's the bit I want to work with. This bit here, that's the bit I want to work with. All right. Again, a little bit of playing around. All right. Mess around with it. See how it feels. See what works for you. All right. You can do split toning and sharpening and noise reduction and loads of cool stuff. Have a play. See what they all do. All right. That's essentially the develop module. Like, it's pretty straightforward. You've got your crop. You can do some healing tools. So you can go in here and let's try to heal this bit. It'll be a little blunt because Photoshop is better at these kind of things. But you can do that. And now it's going to take that, put it over. There we go. We've just gotten rid of that sign. Okay. Gradient. So you can tell it to add a gradient tool. Great for landscapes. So can do some cool stuff there. We can tell it to bring down our exposure, and it's going to go from a gradient from the top of the image all the way down. Let me stretch that out. You know, again, great for landscapes, not so great for indoor things. This is a mask tool. Don't really use that very often. And this is a brush tool, so I could say just this little patch of hair here, bring up the exposure on the head, just there. All right. You do all sorts of cool stuff with that. Obviously, that's ridiculous, but you can do some really, really cool stuff with the exposure values, adding sharpness to specific areas, taking away saturation from specific areas, all that kind of cool stuff. So loads you can do in there. Again, have a bit of a play, see how it feels. That's essentially the develop module. I don't use any of the others. Again, you can in your own time if you wanted to work away. The only other thing you need to know about this is then to export. So up here, File, Export, Command-Shift-E. Okay, so Command-Shift-I to import, Command-Shift-E to export. I don't know what they are on Windows, but I think it's Control-Shift-E and Control-Shift-I. Anyway, so here you want to tell it where is it going. Again, I'm going in here, make a new folder. I'm going to call it Processed. All right, choose. Now all my photos from here are going to go into this folder. I could even put it in a subfolder if I wanted to. Custom name sequence. Now you can do a load of different names here, but I always use custom name sequence. So let's go beyond the square, and it's going to label each one beyond the square 1, 2, 3, 4, etc., etc., etc. You can change that, so if you wanted to, you can do all sorts of stuff with it. Doesn't really matter too much. It's going to be a JPEG, but I could make it a TIFF or a PNG. If I wanted to piss off Martina, I can make it a PNG. Can make it a digital negative. That's our universal RAW file. So every camera has its own RAW. Panasonic is RAW 2. Canon is, I think it's a Canon RAW, something like that. Nikon is NEF. Olympus is, what's Olympus? OEF or ORF, Olympus RAW file. So they all have their different ways of doing it and different ways of processing the photos. DNG is a standard negative. It reduces the quality a little bit on some of them, but it'll be you can open it on any application. So if anyone's ever struggling to open your RAW files, you can export it as a DNG and they'll be able to open those RAW files, or as a Photoshop file as well. So there's some pretty cool stuff there. You can resize it. I can tell it what width and height and dimension, what I want to do. I usually do long edge, so on the longest edge of the image, it's going to make it 8 inches. I can tell it to do that in pixels or centimeters, and I can tell it how many pixels per inch I want. So really, really useful for printing. That's a nice small image. I could tell it 360 even if I was going to do some printing there, and different metadata you can add. I'm not going to go into all that now. And then you just export. Bada bing, bada boom. It's exporting our file up here, and it's done. Let's go back. There's my file or my folder. There's my processed. There's my image.